Okay, so this first set of instructions is for installing a small zipper pocket, and this will work for any size bag, so small, medium, or large. And just so you can get a taste of what size the finished pocket will be, it'll fit a cell phone inside of it. Okay, so I've already prepared the area where I'll be inserting the zipper pocket. So this is theoretically the front of the bag, the lining. So I've already got my lining fabric with the Shapeflex interfacing attached to it. If you'd like to insert your zipper pocket on the outside of the bag, it'll just be the exterior fabric, and again, make sure that the interfacing is attached to the fabric. Okay, so here's my zipper pocket fabric, and for a small pocket, I've cut my fabric piece 8 inches by 12 inches. So for a small pocket, that's the size you want to cut your zipper pocket fabric. I'm not using any interfacing on my zipper pocket. If you choose to use some, I'd suggest using Shapeflex interfacing. Okay, so I'm going to flip to the wrong side of the fabric, and I always like to mark a T at the top of the fabric. That's just sort of a safeguard, so when I'm measuring things, I don't get mixed up which edge is the top edge. If I draw the T on there, then I know that's the top edge. Okay, so I'm going to take my ruler out and measure 6 1/4 inches down from that top edge. So again, that's 6 1/4 inches down, and I'm going to draw a horizontal line. I'm using a friction pen, but you can use chalk or whatever your favorite marking tool is. Okay, so there's that first line. I'm going to draw a second line that's a 1/2 inch below the first line. Okay, now I'm going to draw 2 vertical lines, each 1 inch in from the side edges. Okay, now it's time to place the zipper pocket fabric on top of my lining piece. Okay, so the fabrics will be right sides together, and you want to orient that rectangle, which will be where the zipper will be, how you want it on the bag. I usually like to keep it at least 1 inch or 2 down from the top edge, but just visually keep in mind that this is where that zipper is going to be. So orient it on your fabric. Again, your bag might look different than my rectangle. It might be a shape, and that's okay. And you always want to make sure that it's level. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to situate mine 1 inch up from the bottom. But again, visually where you want that rectangle to be, it's up to you. And you want to make sure it's centered also. So you can either measure with your ruler from each of the side edges, or you can finger press the fabric in half and then center it that way. So if you like to do that, you would finger press the zipper pocket fabric in half and finger press the lining fabric in half, and use the crease from the finger pressing to orient the fabric. So either method is fine, it's up to you. Okay, then I always like to put a couple of pins at the top and the bottom just to hold the fabric in place. And I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and stitch directly on top of the lines that I drew to form a rectangular box. Okay, I'm using a 2mm stitch length, and make sure you backstitch at start and stop. Okay, when you pivot at any of the corners, if you find that you're not coming down exactly in the corner, feel free to shorten your stitch length. So I'm shortening mine to 1.5 mm, and that'll help you come down exactly in the corner. And then turn it back to your regular stitch length. Mine's 2.5 mm. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a line that's directly in the middle of the box, so it's going to be 1/4 inch up, and the line is going to start and stop 1/4 inch from each end. Okay, where you started and stopped the line, draw an outward facing V. Okay, now we're going to cut on the line through both layers of fabric, and I always like to use my seam ripper to get a hole started, and then my scissors the rest of the way. Okay, now I'm going to push the pocket through the opening and press. So that zipper pocket fabric will be spread open like that, and I'm going to press from the right side of the lining piece. If when you're pressing you notice your corners look bunched up, that means that you didn't cut far enough into the V. So if that's the case, push the pocket back through and recut the V, cutting as far into the corner as you can without cutting the stitching. And then I'm using my fingers to sort of roll out the seams so that the fabrics are wrong sides together. Okay, so you should have a nice window opening over here. Now it's time to sew the zipper in place. So for this size zipper pocket, you need at least a 9-inch zipper, and if you have a zipper that's longer, that's perfectly fine. My favorite method to attach zipper pockets is to use Dritz Wash Away Wonder Tape. So it's a 1/4 of an inch wide tape, and it's got a paper backing on one side. So one side is sticky, and then after you stick the first side in place, you peel back the paper and it reveals the second side of the adhesive. I like using this instead of pins because pinning a zipper to the fabric, the pins make the zipper wavy, so then when you sew the zipper in place it looks wavy as well. But this Wash Away Wonder Tape is really handy, and you don't have to do anything. You don't even have to wash it after you sew the zipper in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put the Wash Away Wonder Tape just on the area where the zipper will be sewn in place. I always like to avoid the end of the zipper because that metal zipper stop will break a needle. And I also like to avoid the beginning of the zipper because it has that sort of weird little gap over there. So I'm going to shoot for right in the middle of the zipper. And I'm placing the tape down right at the top edge of the zipper tape. And just use your fingertips to give it a little bit of pressure. If you don't have any of this Wash Away Wonder Tape handy, you can also use a washable glue stick. Okay, so then I'm just going to use my fingernail to peel back a corner of the tape. And then there's that second side of the adhesive. Okay, so now I'm going to have the zipper face up, and I'm going to bring that opening from the lining fabric right on top. And you want equal amounts of the zipper tape to be showing on top and bottom. You don't want the fabric pulled up tight against the teeth. You want the zipper tape to be showing like that. Okay, and you'll notice that zipper head's over here. It's off the edge of the fabric. We'll deal with that in a little bit. So I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the fabric. Usually there's no need to use a zipper foot because the fabric and the interfacing sort of elevates the fabric above the zipper tape. I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the fabric. I'm going to start over here, work my way around the rectangle, and when I reach approximately here, I'm going to stop with the needle down, lift the presser foot up, pull this head past the presser foot, and then finish the rest of the rectangle. Okay, now you'll notice there's some overhang of the zipper, so I'm going to flip to the wrong side, and I'm going to trim the zipper within about 1/4 of an inch of that stitching line on both sides. Okay, so now I'm going to flip down this top edge of the fabric so that it meets this bottom edge of the zipper pocket over here. And feel free to pin that in place, and I'm going to sew the 3 raw edges using 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, except I'm not going to sew on top of this lining piece at all. So when I get to that top corner, I'm going to just push it out of the way just like this. Okay, there's your completed small zipper pocket, and it's ready to sew this piece into the rest of the bag. Okay, so now here's instructions on how to insert a large zipper pocket. So this is great for large bags, travel bags. So here's my bag fabric, and again I'm attaching the zipper pocket to lining, so my lining fabric is already attached to the Shapeflex interfacing. And here's my zipper pocket for the large pocket. So I've cut my fabric to 11 inches by 20 inches. Okay, so again I'm going to draw a T at the top edge, just so I don't get things mixed up when I'm measuring. And I'm going to draw a line that's 10.5 inches down from the top edge. Okay, I'm going to draw a second line that's a 1/2 inch below the first. And then I'm going to draw 2 vertical lines that are each 1 inch in from the side edges. Okay, now I'm going to take my marked zipper pocket, make sure that T stays at the top, and I'm going to pull out that lining piece again. And since your bag will probably be different shapes than mine, you just want to make sure again that that rectangle is clear by the top edge by at least 1 to 2 inches, and you want to make sure that it's centered. Okay, so I'm going to place pins at the top and the bottom just to hold the fabric in place. And I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and sew right on top of the stitches, the line that I drew to form a rectangular box. Okay, so again, we're going to be drawing a line that's halfway up, so 1/4 of an inch up, and it's going to start and stop 1/4 of an inch away from each end. And then again, draw the outward facing V's. And I'm going to cut on the line and use my seam ripper to get that opening started. and then push the pocket fabric through the opening and press. So again, those pocket fabrics will be spread apart like that, and I'm going to press from the lining side. Okay, so if you're making the large pocket, you want your zipper to be at least 12 inches long. And again, if it's longer than 12 inches, that's fine. And again, I'm going to use that Dritz Wash Away Wonder Tape to secure the zipper. Okay, and I'm going to make sure that the zipper's right side facing up, and then place that opening right on top. Okay, again, we're going to be using 1/4 inch seam allowance to sew around the edge of the rectangle, and when you get to the corner where that zipper pull is, just stop with the needle down, lift the presser foot up, and then pull the head past your foot so you can finish the rectangle. Okay, so I noticed when I was sewing that I can see a little of the adhesive showing in certain areas. Because it's wash away, I'm just going to take a spray bottle and spritz that area with some water and the adhesive will go away. Okay, so to finish off the zipper, again, I'm going to clip within 1/4 inch away from the stitching line. And then I'm going to fold this top edge down. Okay, again, I'm going to sew the 3 raw edges using 1/4 inch seam allowance, and make sure the lining is pushed back out of the way. Okay, so using my measurements, you can install a zipper pocket in either a large bag or any size bag with the small pocket.